do something special with all our dignitaries and, of course, our latest brand ambassador that has joined forces. So I request everyone to please rejoin me on stage as well, the legend himself, who is now your brand ambassador, but has also been an incredible player. He's been an icon, the wall, Mr. Dependable, captain of India, and our coach of India. I mean, so many hats that Mr. Rahul Dravid wears. Please join us on stage, Mr. Rahul Dravid, Mr. Krishna Kumar, C&MD, Mr. Sukamal Jain, Director Marketing, and Mr. VRK Gupta, Director Finance. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an opportunity for us to engage with an absolute icon, a legend, and from a man who we can learn so many values that we ourselves and professionals, even if we're not elite athletes, even if we're not elite cricketers, we can learn these moments and learn about how we can implement it in our work. So, gentlemen, over to you to have a heartfelt conversation.
Rahul, I want to begin with your debut match, 1996. I think it was the finest innings you played. You were out 95, and another debutant, Saurav, hit 131. But I thought it was one of the finest innings you played or anybody played till then. What was it like when you missed the century by 5 runs on your debut?
I think I always, honestly, to be very honest with you, I looked at the situation as a glass half full rather than a glass half empty. I think to score 95 on your test debut and to be able to play, I just, like, if I go back, I just grew up as a young boy dreaming of playing for India and wanting to play for India. And I spent many years playing junior cricket, domestic cricket, to finally achieve that dream. So just to be an Indian cricketer, I think for me was something really special. And then to be able to go out and score 95. Yes, of course, I would have liked to have scored 5 runs more and got 100 as well, like Saurav did. That would have been a record in itself if two debutants had got 100. But unfortunately, I got out, and to be honest, I was really happy. I know there were a lot of people who said, oh, bad luck, 5 runs would have been great. But if somebody had told me, you'll get to play a test match, your first test match at Lord's, you'll get to score 95 runs, I would have taken it any day of the week. So, no, I think I was really, it was a great occasion and really enjoyed that innings.
Just a follow-up, how did it spur you to score the next one?
Yeah, I think in some ways, I think there was always that motivation because you had fallen slightly short on your sort of test debut. And I think in some ways it maybe was a good thing because it drove me to keep I don't think I would have ever got complacent even if I had scored 100. But I think that drive and that hunger to, finally get a test 100 and to score a test 100 is something that probably stayed with me even after that innings.
Well said.
Yeah, it's fascinating, Rahul. Being a passionate cricket fan, I truly resonate the sentiments you give on the field. But like I was talking about energy transition, so your transition from on-field to off-field, how you really perceive this transition in the role, basically, from on-field to off-field, and like how the perspective changes, means when you are on the field and when you are off the field, on the like sitting on the side and really doing the role. And if I really ask, what particular thing in coaching really motivate you in moving forward?
Just ask the last question.
Yeah. So what really in coaching really motivate you?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. I think for me, after I finished playing the game, I was still figuring out what to do after that. And I think the thing about sport is that you finish your career quite early. Even though by sporting standards, I had quite a long career. I played 16 years for India and another 5-6 years before that for Karnataka. So totally almost a 22, 23-year professional career, which is really long by sporting standards, but probably in the careers that you all have, and it's probably just starting out. So I think for me it was a decision of what I wanted to do after that, and where I saw things going. I experimented and tried a few things. I did a little bit of commentary, but one of the things that I was doing when I finished, I was still playing a little bit of IPL, so I played a couple of years of the IPL and took on a little bit of a role of like a coach come captain and got involved in the process of, running the team and managing the players. And I kind of really enjoyed that, which really sparked my interest into coaching. And I think the thing about coaching for me, I think it really is something that I felt gave me a really good opportunity to work with other players, to still, in some ways, really be involved in the game again, and to be able to, sort of share and transfer some of my experiences to other people, and to be able to be a part of their journeys. I think I was very fortunate and privileged that I had some good people around me who really supported me when I was a youngster and gave me, gave me a really good environment and support that allowed me to fulfill my potential. So for me, I think that is the real passion, the passion of being able to work with young people at very critical stages in their careers at times, and to be able to help them grow as cricket players, obviously, but also as people. And to give them an environment to be able to express their talent and to fulfill their potential. I think that's something, an opportunity, or that's something that coaching allows you to do, and that's something that really excites me about coaching, and helps me wake up every morning excited about being a coach and trying to make a difference.
Yeah, that's really motivating. But the game of cricket changing a lot over a period of time. Like the format, the rules, many things have changed. How do we handle the changes of external factors? In fact, what we see the cricket today is completely quite different compared to 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. The game is changing all the time. It's changing very fast. I always tell the story. He said when I was growing up, playing cricket in Bangalore as a young boy, my coach at that time, the late Mr. Keki Tarapo, he was our coach. And, when I would go to the nets, he would never allow us to hit any ball in the air. So you had to hit the ball, everything had to be hit on the ground. And if you hit anything in the air, he would make you run rounds around the ground. So you can imagine if I coach like that and if I tell Rohit Sharma not to hit the ball in the ground. I mean, he's like, I think the game has changed, right? And now we are starting to tell people to first hit the ball in the air and then hit it on the ground. So, I think that's the kind of sea change that is happening today. But I think it's happening for the better. I think the game is becoming a lot more professional today. The access to data, the access to technology, the access to really good coaching facilities, the way the infrastructure has improved, the infrastructure has changed so much, equipment has changed, the quality of equipment has changed so much. So I think all of these things are a really good step and a really progressive step in the way the sport is moving forward. It's becoming faster, it's becoming quicker, it's becoming a lot more exciting to watch as well. There's a lot more skill involved as well in the sport today. So it's a really exciting time to be a part of the sport, with the sport changing so much. But you have to change with the times as well. You have to learn to be able to adapt your coaching style or adapt the way you play according to the way the situation and the game is changing constantly. And it's really challenging for the young players today as well because of the three formats. For them to be able to juggle between the three formats and to be able to play all the three formats successfully is not a very easy thing. And it's only the really good players who are able to really, I think, sort of develop those skills and work really hard on developing the skills in all the three formats are the ones who are able to succeed in all three of them. And it's not an easy thing to do.
Rahul, I like some of the very curious questions I wanted to ask you. I've never seen you losing your cool, or never heard in any press that you've lost your cool. How do you remain so calm all the time?
No, I have lost my cool a few times. And quite famously once after an IPL game, when we lost in Bombay, I threw my cap, and as soon as I was throwing my cap, as soon as it was leaving my hand, I was regretting that all the way through. But look, I think in general, I've always been quite a relaxed person. So even growing up, I particularly didn't lose my cool too much playing a lot. But I think one of the things I did figure out as a player and now even as a coach, I perform best when I'm quite calm and I'm not my emotions don't go all over the place. I think people are slightly different. Somebody spoke about Virat. Virat is someone who wears his heart on his sleeve and is really emotional about things, and that gets the best out of him. I'm someone who's slightly different. I perform, I feel at my best when I can, stay balanced and stay calm. So I've worked on it a little bit. To be honest, I've worked on it. I used to dabble a bit in things like meditation and yoga when I was playing a lot, and continue to do a little bit now when I feel the stress a bit. But no, I think there are times in the dressing room or away from public, away from the public eye or television cameras where, I have lost my cool a few times, I must admit.
One more question I have is, everybody faces pressure, I'm sure, as cricketer with so much of public grace on you. You must definitely have faced many times. Even while on the 22 yards, you must have faced. And you would have failed many times and you would have succeeded many times. Is failure a precursor to success?
I think learning correctly from failure is helpful for success. And I always use that. I said, people keep saying that failing leads to success. But I believe failing well leads to success. And what I mean by failing well is you've got to actually learn from those failures. I think there's a lot of times I've come across with people who, when they fail, they sometimes don't tend to use that failure properly. I think, there are a lot of times people will brush things under a carpet when they fail. Or they will blame other people, right? You can fail in a match, for example, and a lot of times I feel people will come and say, oh, the pitch acha nahi tha, ball bahut acha gir gaya, umpire ne galat out de diya. तो मेरे को actually umpire बहुत गलत देते थे, पर कोई बात नहीं. But so I think that is a wrong way to approach a situation when you fail. But I think the really great players that I've played with, or the really good players that I've played with, I think one of the things they're very good at doing is that, what can I learn from this failure? What are my lessons? What have I picked up from the failure? So it's not just about failing. I mean, failing all the time and not learning from it is actually no solution to, it doesn't mean that you'll succeed. But actually, if you're able to pick up the lessons from that failure and actually reflect on it and think about it and look at areas that you could probably get better at and improve, then I think that leads to success in the future, or at least gives you the best chance to succeed in the future.
So well said, Rahul. I think it's very useful for all of us sitting in the audience as well.
I would like to talk about the way you deal with the uncertainties. Like when we can imagine the players in the field, the captain, and as a coach, you confront various challenges. And these challenges swiftly changes for every ball. What are your strategies? How do you handle these swift changes and challenges during the match?
I think one of the things about, I think cricket, like you rightly said, is a sport where there's a lot of uncertainty, and times things can change very quickly, and things change very fast as well. I've always sort of believed in planning and, having certain strategies when we go in, or whenever you go to bat. I've always sort of thought about, okay, I spend some time the day before the game thinking about what the pitch conditions might be like, which are the bowlers that I'm going to play against. Even as a coach now, we are always having strategies, or how do we want to bowl, how do we want to bat, how are we going to get people out. You always have those strategies. But I think one of the important things, I think that planning is important, and that preparation is really, really important. But also just having that flexibility to also change when things change with you. Not being stubborn about things when you realize that some things have changed, right? You might think that a wicket is going to play in a particular way, but it plays completely differently. Can you on the fly change your strategy, change your tactics? And I think that having that skill of flexibility, keeping an open mind, keeping a mind that is open to learning, open to changing, I think is really, really important. So I think the strategy and the process is really important, but also I think recognizing times and picking the moments when you know that you quickly have to change tactics or change strategy is also equally important.
So adaptability is very important.
Yeah.
Rahul, just moving on that, Mr. Dependable. I think personally speaking, if I really say this, seeing your career and the achievements which you have done, probably consistency and discipline probably are the two key, means personally speaking, maybe there are some more things, are the two key factors which have really means show your character in the field and the public face. So can you just share means when really you started means working on these, and how you really handle it today also means?
I think for me, it's a couple of things. Firstly, I really love the game. I think that was the basic premise of everything that I did. I think my earliest memories are of, growing up on the streets in Bangalore and playing cricket and, playing with my father in front of the house with a tennis ball and, just loving the game, growing up loving the game. So I think that is something that is really, and I still love the game today. I love cricket and love watching cricket. I love coaching cricket. Unfortunately, I can't play it anymore, other than at events like this when Mr. Krishna Kumar gives me a slow full toss and I can play, only that I can play now, But no, so I love the game, and I think that is something that has really kept me going. It's just that love of the game. I've really, someone who's, I've been really lucky as well, I think, to be able to make something that was my hobby. I think cricket was just a hobby for me growing up. It was something I loved doing, playing with my friends, playing in school, and it was really a hobby. And to be able to make my hobby my profession for so many years as a cricketer and now even as a coach, and to stay involved in the game, I'm really grateful for that, and really I feel very lucky that I've been able to do that. So that's been something that's been the sort of the foundation of everything that I've done. And in terms of just the discipline and the hard work, or just trying to get the best out of myself, I always felt that I was lucky enough, like I said, to be given a gift. I was given a gift to be able to play cricket well and to do it well. I don't know why I was given it, but there are some certain things which you feel that you've just been lucky to get. You have a natural ability, a natural talent, and I felt that I wanted to make the most of that talent. I think that natural talent, yes, was a gift, but you can't only rely on that natural talent. You need to be able to get the best out of that talent, and to be able to play consistently over a long period of time, and to get the best out of yourself, you also had to work hard and be dedicated. And I think for me that was a great motivation, that I didn't want to waste the gifts that somehow, God I was lucky enough to get.
So inner side and probably continuously working for that.
I think yes. I think there's no doubt that you have to keep working hard at what you do and keep improving and keep getting better. Because I think if you're playing at an elite level, everyone around you is also constantly improving. They're constantly getting better. So if you're not going to improve, then you're going to stagnate, you're going to stay there, and then you're going to find it very difficult to compete. So if you want to compete with the best, and you want to be able to stay with the best, then you've got to keep working hard, innovating, keep learning, keep improving, even when things are going well for you. I think sometimes we make the mistake of looking to improve only when results don't go for us. But I think recognizing that even when you're doing well, you still need to keep getting better is something that's really, really important to have longevity.
Yeah, thanks for the success mantra.
Thank you.
I have two questions again.
Sure.
In a cricket crazy country like India, you're almost demigod. How do you stay so grounded?
It's a trick question. And the moment you say you're grounded, you're not actually. The moment you say you're humble, you're not humble. So that's always a trick question. No, I think the game itself has taught me that. To be very honest with you, this game, it's a game of failure. I think every time I come to events like this, and especially now that I've retired, people always remember the really nice things that you do. Like people have spoken about Kolkata, and people have spoken about that. Nobody remembers that just the test match before that, I scored, I think, 6 and 10 or something like that. Everyone remembers your iconic moments. Everyone remembers the special moments that you do, which is really nice, and you're grateful for it. But the game itself, actually, you fail more than you succeed. I've batted a lot of times for India, but my success rate, even if I consider a 50 a success as a batsman, at least a 50 is a successful performance. I've probably failed. Maybe I haven't crossed 50, more than 70-80% of the time, every time I went out to bat. So you see a lot of failure in the sport. People remember your successes, people remember the good things that you've done. But actually you learn a lot from the times that you fail. And I think that's something that I think, at least for me personally, has always kept me grounded, because every time I've got ahead of myself, the game has, taught me and made me fail and ensured that, I stay humble, I stay grounded and stick to the process. So I think, really lucky. The game itself, in a ways, if you're willing to learn from the game, it teaches you every time the game starts from zero, irrespective of whether you scored 100 in the last game or if you scored a 0 in the last game. It doesn't really matter. Every time you go out to play the next time, the game starts with 0 all over again. So I think that's something that's, for me, has really helped me sort of, stay grounded.
So I take it from what you said. You just said that I have not scored more than 70-80% of the time 50s. But that's because you made sure the team won. So you are more team focused rather than the way I would look at it. So the following question is, all teams, all organization will have internal conflicts. How did you deal with it probably in a team when you're 11 or 12 of you together, closeted for a long tour? How did you deal with such conflicts, and how did you give feedback, more importantly? Because you must have done at many occasions.
Yeah, so it's a really good question, and something that, honestly, I must admit I'm constantly learning and trying to get better at, and especially now as a coach, I think sort of this thing of internal conflict resolution and giving feedback is a really important part of what your sort of role is as a coach. One of the things I've sort of thought about conflict, or reflected on conflict a little bit. I think for me, a lot about conflict, at least in our kind of situation or in our team kind of situation, is when you're sometimes not very clear with what the value system of your team is and what are some of the non-negotiables in a team. I think there need to be certain areas in which certain behaviors or certain values that you agree with the team. It's not about you, or at least my philosophy is not about me coming in as a coach and saying, hey, this is what we need to do and this is what the values of the team should be. It has to be a consultative process. Of course, we are much smaller than big organizations, so we are only 15 players or 20 players in a team. So it's easier for us to get together and actually have a consultative process as to what we think are the basic non-negotiables in a team. Right? There might be variety of things, right? The team might discuss and say that, coming to time for practice or a match, or getting onto the bus on time is an absolute non-negotiable. Punctuality is a non-negotiable, or effort is a non-negotiable, or certain fitness standards are a non-negotiable. In and around that, having those non-negotiable standards and those values and defining them clearly, I think is something that's really, really important. And it doesn't lead to situations where, there's ambiguity about certain things. Around that, of course, there needs to be a flexibility and a need to have an opportunity to allow people to have creativity and express themselves as well. So having that kind of sort of environment, or the team environment, which is a consultative process which leads to certain values, I think really certainly helps in sort of a lot of conflict resolutions that seem to come up. In terms of feedback, again, a really good and sometimes a very challenging thing to do. It's not an easy thing to give feedback, or sometimes even receive feedback from people. And I think there are just two things about feedback. I think one of the things about feedback is that it's like this thing. I always like to give this example of a plane landing. It's like you want to give feedback or you want to give advice to somebody, and you think about a plane landing, right? I think for a plane to land, the runway needs to be perfect. The runway needs to be really good. If the runway has potholes or it's too small, your plane is not going to land, it's going to crash. And I think of feedback and advice as exactly that. It's like that plane. You have to first create that environment or create that runway that allows that feedback to land. And I think that's about building that relationship, building that trust, building that. That's why I think leadership is about creating that trust and that confidence that when you are giving feedback, it's actually the best interest of the people coming through. If you haven't spent the time, or if we have not created that kind of environment, then any advice you give sometimes doesn't land, and even though it's the best, it's the best advice. Yeah, so that's something that I've really found with feedback. And then I think honesty is important. I found that in the end of the day, like we are always taking sometimes tough decisions on people. Just as I think so many of you are as well, right? You are picking people, you're dropping people, and sometimes it's very hard. And I find that one of the hardest things to do. It's emotionally as a coach, it's probably the toughest thing, and it's not easy to even it's not easy to get used to it, because you're actually telling people that they're not playing, and you're dropping them from teams, or sometimes, and the tricky thing in cricket is, it's not like in Bharat Petroleum. I hope that you don't have to say it to anyone, but if you tell somebody he is not picked, or he has to leave, or you're not giving him the promotion, he can choose to go to another organization. If I tell an Indian player that he's not picked, he can't go and play for England, right? So it's a bit like you feel that pressure a little bit, but I think honesty is really important, and I think if people see that you're honest and you're coming from the right place, then I think they seem to accept it. But there's
very
no.
well said, very well.
Just one more real current type of things. See, now is the world of social media, and anything good or bad happens, immediately it surfaces on social media. So how do you really handle this? Means whether you isolate or you get into it, how do really handle it? Means this social media, I would say, fever nowadays.
Yeah. To be very honest with you, I switch off from it. I have figured out that, I am not really on social media or any of these platforms, and I try and stay away from it as much as, I possibly can. And in fact, I'm off it completely. I don't, see it, because, I've honestly figured out that I don't really want random people, giving me advice or trying to, maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I'm just not comfortable with the medium. I don't, so for me, I guess then in that sense, I have to make a conscious effort to go look for feedback, right? I feel that social media is feedback from people. A lot of it, I'm not saying all of it, but a lot of it would be feedback from people who, honestly, I don't believe have the expertise or the knowledge or the understanding of my situation or what I'm going through or what a player is going through to be able to give constructive or good feedback. So then in that situation, if I want feedback as a coach, I have to actually identify a few people and mentors or people that I know I look up to, 4 or 5 people who I know are going to give me honest feedback. Right? If I'm not looking for feedback from anywhere else, then I have 4 or 5 people who I can pick up the phone to, or who will pick up the phone to me and give me honest feedback if I need to. So that's my way of getting my feedback. That's why my way of getting my knowledge is to identify 3 or 4 people who I know are giving me good feedback, but not relying on the masses to give me feedback.
But how you really put this to the youngsters player means?
Yeah,
in today's world.
It's very tough. It's tough, and it's not an easy situation for a lot of the youngsters growing up. I must admit, it's not at all an easy situation, and a lot of them have to learn how to deal with it. And I always tell them, if you're not comfortable with the medium, or you're not comfortable with the comments that are coming your way, then you have then it's in your control to switch it off. It's in your control to stay away from it. But if you want to be involved in the process, and if you want to be involved in social media, then you better develop a thick skin and deal with it. So it's a choice you make. It's a choices you make.
So truly you are saying, कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, लोगों का काम है कहना.
Absolutely.
छोड़ो बेकार की बात. Thank you.
Continuing from that, we would like to know about your coaches, how they have treated you, and could you tell us about some of the important advices you have received which made you a big difference in your career, and your favorite coach?
Yeah, I think I was very lucky and very fortunate, I had some really good coaches growing up, especially the late Mr. K.K. Tarapo. He was, a coach in Bangalore, and someone who, who taught me the basics of the game. But more importantly, I think one of the things that, the technique of the game was one thing, that he as a coach taught you. But I think one of the things that he really imbibed in me, and I think in a lot of us who played cricket with him, was just really respect for the game and respect for everything that came with the game. So Mr. Tarapo was very, particular about sort of attendance. He was very particular about punctuality. He was very particular that your shoes were clean and neat and white every time we came to practice. Your equipment was well maintained and looked after. You respected your opponents. You respected your teammates. You respected the umpires. He would get very upset if we showed any reaction if we got a bad decision or if we were given out. So I think these kind of life skills is something that I really learned from Mr. Tarapo, at a young age. Yes, he taught us the technique and that a lot of people can teach you. But I think the great thing was that he lived it. Someone like him, is not about him giving us that gyan. He would be the first person at practice. He would be meticulous in his own preparation. He would come well prepared for a practice session. So I think all of these things, you watched and you really learned from observing someone like him. Not only what he said, but also what he did. And I think that was something that has always stayed with me and something that I take even into my coaching today. Is that dedication and discipline to your craft and the job that you do was something that I think was very, very important and something that I learned from someone like Mr. K.K. Tarapur at a really young age.
One last question from my side. Is there any regret in your cricketing career?
There are disappointments. I don't use the word regret. I think there are disappointments. If you play as long as I played, like I said earlier, you don't succeed all the time. You fail a lot. And there are things that you maybe, there are many test matches I have lost which I've been disappointed about, or there have been World Cups that we have not been able to win that you're disappointed about. Even now, I don't use the word regret because I don't think I regret anything, because I truly believe that I gave it my best effort. I did the very best that I possibly could. And so there's no regrets. I mean, I did the best I could. I tried my best, and it didn't always work out. There have been disappointments. There are things that don't work out. You fail a lot. You learn from it. You move on. So no, absolutely no regrets about my career. Some disappointments, and there are certain things that I wish, like in hindsight, and that's only hindsight. If you look back, I wish I knew this when I started my career. Especially in areas like sports science and medicine or fitness. The things that I know today, if I had known when I started, it would have made a huge difference. But you can't think about things like that, right? I mean, I think everyone was in the same boat. And whatever knowledge we had at that point of time, I think I made the best use of it or tried to make the best use of it. There's no point looking back, I wish I knew this 10 years ago, right? I think that doesn't make sense,
Any passing advice to all of them sitting in the audience?
Firstly, I think, I'm sure advice, I think, like I said earlier, I think it's lovely to be part of the Bharat Petroleum family. I think it's an organization, it's a place that, I think all of you have made truly excellent. All of you have achieved so much, continue to achieve so much. I think even if I look at just the way those ads were done, just the way the commercials were done, just the way this whole event has been conducted. I think it's been absolutely brilliant. It's been top class. It's been thought through. So I think, just a big congratulations to all of you. In passing, all I will say is that keep supporting the Indian cricket team. Keep supporting us. There's some big tournaments coming up over the next couple of months. We are all excited about it. As I'm sure all of you are, it's going to be a big couple of months of cricket in Sri Lanka and in India in the next 2 or 3 months. And we are really looking forward to it. We look forward to your support. Thank you so much for having me here today.
And Rahul, I just have to add on what you've said. We know that there is a World Cup in India after so many years. For the Indian team to walk out in Indian stadiums wearing that blue, representing the flag in front of their home fans, what will that mean when you step out in the field? I mean, how emotional is it going to be? What are you anticipating from the team and from yourself during this World Cup? Just stepping out and seeing, you're a home team playing a World Cup.
Yeah, I think it's going to be exciting. I think the way we should approach it is that we got to be excited about it. You know, we got to be excited to be able to show our skills in front of our own fans, in front of our own people, in front of our families, in front of our friends. You know, I think this is going to be an exciting opportunity. Yeah, sure, there's going to be some pressure, there's going to be expectations, as there always is. But to be able to showcase your skill in front of your own people is going to be special. And I hope that the boys will really respond well and see it as a great opportunity rather than any great pressure.
Absolutely. Well said, beautifully said. We're also going to fulfill Rahul Dravid's wishes now, and we're going to get him back
There's
into
one-
cricket
one-
playing
One
mode.
last question.
Yes, sir,
One
please
last
carry
question.
on.
Sorry. Rahul, it's truly means pleasure to hear so many insights. See, in Bharat Petroleum also we always strive for excellence. So, means would like to hear from you, means your perspective of how one can really like strive for excellence, because in all our business endeavors, so sports and business I don't feel is a two different things.
No, I mean, like I said, it's hard for me to talk about a business, but what I can say about sport, and I just think that journey towards excellence, and like I said, I've been privileged to share a dressing room or to be around people who have really worked hard towards, you know, striving for excellence. I think they are, you know, a couple of simple things that I think are really important. One is that constantly having a mindset that you want to keep growing and you want to keep improving. I think having that kind of mindset is really important. The other thing is then willing to be able to work hard for it. You know, to be able to make the sacrifices required to be able to achieve excellence. I think achieving excellence in anything requires a certain level of sacrifice, it requires a certain level of hard work, it requires a certain level of passion that, that you need to have and that you need to commit to. You know, I think most importantly in all of this is to enjoy the journey. You know, I think enjoying what you do is really, really important. You know, I think it's not always that we get to do what we enjoy, right? But whatever you do, if you find a way to enjoy it and find a way to learn from it, I think that's something that constantly drives you towards excellence.
Really, thanks, because there is no replacement to hard work and enjoying your life.
Absolutely, I think hard work is critical, and then enjoying what you do and constantly learning. Yeah, I think that those three are the simple things.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Rahul. It was lovely chatting with you. I think
Thanks,
look forward
thanks.
to many more, and welcome to the family.
Thank you so much. It was lovely chatting with you also.